Good evening, sleepyheads. Tonight we bring you an unlikely friendship for the ages. Mahatma Gandhi and Oscar the Grouch. One, a global icon of peace and non-violent resistance. The other, a green grump who once booed a sunrise and meant it. It sounds impossible, but somehow, through a swirl of compost, kindness, and cosmic coincidence, they meet. What follows includes peaceful protests about too much chair, trash can diplomacy, gentle lessons in salt and stillness, and at least one spider who thinks in haiku. If these stories bring peace to your night, a small click on like and subscribe means the world to us and helps us keep creating more. And tell us in the comments where and when you're listening from. We love seeing our global circle of dreamers growing each night. So take a breath. Let the stars settle overhead as you fall asleep to one of the most unlikely friendships. The kind that never happened until now. The can and the cause. Present-day Sesame Street, just after sunrise. It began, as many things on Sesame Street do, with a strange noise and an out-of-place feeling. Oscar the Grouch awoke with a snort. Something was wrong. Very wrong. His trash can had been moved exactly 14 inches to the left. He knew because he'd spent the better part of the last 3 years calculating the optimal morning glare angle that would hit just the right spot on his rusty lid and keep birds from landing there. Now the angle was off. A pigeon had already had the gall to perch on him at dawn. Furious, Oscar lifted his lid and shouted to the world, "Who moved my can?" No one answered. The street was unusually quiet for a Tuesday morning. No Elmo, no cookie crumbs, not even a poorly tuned rendition of the alphabet song. Just stillness. And one man, sitting cross-legged next to his trash can, was a stranger. He wore a simple white dhoti, his thin frame wrapped in soft cloth like a human napkin. A walking stick leaned against his knee. His round spectacles reflected the rising sun, and his face held the kind of calm that Oscar instinctively distrusted. Oscar squinted. "Who are you supposed to be? Some kind of yoga broom?" The man turned slowly and offered a small smile. "My name is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi." Oscar blinked. Gandhi, like Salt March, British jail guy, baldy with the glasses. "I have been called worse," Gandhi said, unfazed. Oscar rubbed his eyes. "You're dead, aren't you dead?" Gandhi's smile deepened. "That does tend to be the consensus." "Okay, fine. Then what are you doing here? This is my trash can, my street. I didn't invite any historical figures to squat on my curb." "I did not come to claim territory," Gandhi said, "only to sit in peace." Oscar growled. "Well, you can't. Peace is not what we do around here. This is a grumpy zone. No smiling, no sitting calmly, and absolutely no enlightenment." Gandhi bowed his head slightly. "Then I shall try to be unenlightened. You may guide me." Oscar huffed and disappeared back into his can. He thought that would be the end of it. It was not. 10 minutes later, Oscar popped his lid again, just to peek. Gandhi hadn't moved. Not an inch. Just sitting, waiting. Oscar watched from the shadows inside his can, suspicious. "What's he waiting for?" he mumbled. "A meditation contest? A pigeon to land on him?" He waited 5 more minutes, then grumbled, louder. Are you seriously just gonna sit there all day? If needed, Gandhi replied. I find patience is often the best introduction. Oscar scoffed. Well, I find sitting around doing nothing is a great way to get ants. Gandhi chuckled. Insects do not worry me. Oh, great, he's a bug guy, Oscar muttered. Still, something about this man's presence was different. Oscar had seen a lot of strange folks wander down Sesame Street over the years. Aliens, giant birds, hyperactive monsters, but none had ever just sat. No games, no songs, no lesson of the day. Just a quiet man with a stick and a smile. Oscar hated it. A few kids walked by and waved. Hi, Gandhi. Oscar narrowed his eyes. Wait, you know him. Gina from the corner shop stopped and shrugged. He's been visiting all week, talks to anyone who wants to listen. Helped Elmo build a sand mandala yesterday. Had tea with Big Bird. Oscar scowled. Ugh, that feathered duster's a sucker for soft-spoken types. He also helped Grover fix his bicycle chain using just a paperclip and a leaf. Oscar slammed his lid shut. Show off. Later that afternoon, Oscar cracked open his lid again. Gandhi was still there, now quietly spinning thread between his fingers using what looked like a miniature spinning wheel made out of cardboard and broken coat hangers. Is that trash? Gandhi looked up. It is repurposed material, yes. I am trying to build a new charkha. A what car? A spinning wheel. It is part of the Swadeshi movement. In India, we spun our own cloth to resist British control of the textile industry, a symbol of self-reliance. Oscar blinked. You're telling me you make yarn as a form of protest? Yes. Oscar let out a single, confused laugh. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and I live inside a garbage can. Perhaps, Gandhi said calmly, but symbols are powerful. A small act, repeated with purpose, can unsettle empires. Oscar stared at him, then ducked back inside his can, then popped back up again. You're weird, he said. And yet, Gandhi replied, you continue talking to me. Oscar growled, then muttered, whatever, and slammed his lid again. The next morning, Gandhi was still there. Oscar had half a mind to call the mayor. Instead, he poked his head out. You ever gonna leave? I will go where I am needed, Gandhi replied. Until then, I remain here. Oscar scoffed. You're not needed here. A pause. Then Gandhi said softly, everyone is needed somewhere, Oscar. Even you. Oscar froze. His name? He hadn't told him his name. How do you know who I am? Gandhi looked up. I've read your work. Oscar blinked. What work? Your essay in Grouch Quarterly on the philosophy of intentional unpleasantness. It was quite insightful. Oscar felt heat rising in his fuzzy green cheeks. That was a draft. I didn't even send that in. I found it in your trash. It had promise. Oscar slammed his lid so hard it echoed across the street. Then quietly, beneath his breath, he muttered, promise, huh? Later that day, a curious thing happened. Oscar pushed open his lid and found a small package on his doorstep. Inside was a tiny spinning wheel, made from scrap. with a note. You already make things that last. Now try making something soft. MKG. Oscar looked up. Gandhi was gone, but somehow he didn't feel like arguing anymore. He pulled the spinning wheel inside, and for the first time in a long time, Oscar didn't go back to sleep. He just sat, quiet, listening to the wind, spinning wheels and broken brooms. Inside Oscar's trash can, surprisingly spacious and chaotic. Oscar didn't invite him in. Not officially. He just happened to leave the lid slightly open one misty morning, and Gandhi, calm as ever, simply poked his head in and asked, "May I?" Oscar grunted, which in Grouch translates roughly to "fine, but don't touch anything, sit on anything, smell anything, or look at anything for too long." Gandhi bowed politely and stepped inside. Oscar's trash can, as most people don't realize, was much larger on the inside. Think cave meets garage sale meets recycling center hit by a tornado. The smell alone could peel wallpaper off neighboring houses. Stacks of old newspapers teetered dangerously. Broken toys lay beside rusted toasters and half-eaten sandwiches arranged like an archaeological dig of bad decisions. A sock puppet with a mustache blinked at Gandhi from a shelf and whispered, "Save yourself." But Gandhi smiled. "I like what you've done with the place," he said. Oscar rolled his eyes. Yeah. Welcome to the Taj Mahal of rot." Gandhi took it all in slowly. He stopped in front of a shattered broom. The handle was snapped in two, the bristles wilted. "May I borrow this?" he asked. Oscar looked over, suspicious. "That old thing. It's a broken stick and sadness. What could you possibly use it for?" "Thread," Gandhi replied simply. And with that, he sat on an overturned milk crate and began to work. For the next hour, Oscar watched, pretending not to watch, as Gandhi carefully transformed the broom into a makeshift charkha, the traditional spinning wheel Gandhi had once used during India's fight for independence. He lashed together the handle pieces, using twist ties from Oscar's bread bag museum, balanced the spindle with an old Pez dispenser, and used a bent fork as the tension pin. Oscar tried not to be impressed. "Takes real courage to desecrate a perfectly awful broom," he muttered. Gandhi chuckled. "I believe in second chances." Oscar tilted his head. "Second chances for trash, for brooms, for empires." Oscar paused. "That's dramatic." History usually is. As Gandhi began to spin, a soft rhythm filled the can. Whir, whir, whir. The thread stretched and twisted between his fingers. It wasn't perfect, lumpy, uneven, but it was real. "Why?" Oscar asked after a long silence. "Why go through all this trouble for string?" "Because string becomes cloth, and cloth becomes a statement." Oscar snorted. "You're making a statement with thread." "In 1921, Gandhi said, we urged every Indian to spin their own yarn, to stop buying British cloth. It was a way to reclaim dignity, to remind people they didn't have to depend on someone who treated them as less." Oscar scratched his fuzzy chin. "So, spinning is like rebellion." Gandhi nodded. "A quiet one." Oscar leaned back against a tower of sardine tins. I guess that's kind of grouchy. It is also kind, Gandhi said. You can be both. Oscar grumbled. Yeah, well, I'm not into kindness. Never have been. I noticed, Gandhi said, not unkindly. Oscar narrowed his eyes. Was that sarcasm? I don't believe in sarcasm. Oscar sighed. Of course you don't. Over the next few days, Gandhi kept returning. Each time the spinning wheel came with him. And slowly, Oscar started noticing things, like how Gandhi always left the can cleaner than he found it, or how he replaced the squeaky hinge on Oscar's lid without being asked, or how, without making a big deal of it, he began sorting Oscar's recycling into proper bins. Stop organizing my chaos, Oscar growled. I am only enhancing its potential. Enhance this, Oscar muttered, hurling a moldy tennis ball at him. Gandhi caught it and handed it back, smiling. Oscar hated how good he was at this. Then came the spider. Oscar loved the spider. It lived in the corner near his busted typewriter and had been weaving webs in strange geometric patterns. When Gandhi noticed it, he simply bowed his head and said, Namaste, little spinner. Oscar perked up. You like spiders? They are natural weavers, Gandhi said. Very wise. Oscar beamed. Her name's Margaret. She writes poetry. Gandhi bowed again. A pleasure, Margaret. The spider responded by pooping on a thumbtack. Oscar beamed even more. By the end of the week, Oscar found himself doing something he almost never did. He waited for someone to visit. He left the lid ajar, just a crack. Made a little space on the crate. Even pulled out an extra mug, though he didn't clean it. When Gandhi arrived, Oscar mumbled, Hope you brought that broom thing. Margaret wrote a haiku about lint. She honors our craft, Gandhi said with a smile. They sat side by side. Whir. Later that night, after Gandhi had left, Oscar sat staring at the half-spun thread hanging from the charkha. He didn't understand most of what Gandhi talked about. Civil disobedience, salt, colonialism, fasting. But he did understand this. Someone came into his trash can and didn't flinch, didn't judge, didn't try to fix him. He just spun thread and listened. Oscar scratched his head and muttered, Weird guy. Then quietly he added, Good guy. He looked around at the chaos in his can. Then with a grunt, he started cleaning a single corner. Just a little. Just enough space for the spinning wheel. Trash talk in the time of empire. South Africa, 1893. Gandhi's early activism. It started with a nap. Oscar had been curled up inside an old burlap sack labeled Expired Anchovy Pudding, 1974, when he dozed off. The spinning wheel's hum still echoed faintly in his ears. He didn't remember falling asleep. But when he opened his eyes, he wasn't in his trash can anymore. Instead, he was standing on a train platform under a gray foreign sky. His trash can sat beside him, somehow wheeled in from another century, its lid fogged with cold. Oscar looked around. Oh, great. Not this again. Dream sequence. Then he saw him. Gandhi, but younger. No spectacles. A little rounder in the face. dressed in a formal Western suit complete with tie and polished shoes. Totally wrong. Oscar blinked. Where's the sheet robe thing? The young Gandhi didn't hear him. He was arguing with a uniformed conductor near the steps of a train car. I have a valid first-class ticket, Gandhi was saying, calm but firm. The conductor snarled. Not for you, you don't. First class is for Europeans. I am a British-educated lawyer traveling for work. Then you can enjoy the baggage car with the chickens. The other passengers watched silently. Some laughed. Oscar's brow furrowed. This was already making him uncomfortable, and Oscar hated feelings. Then the conductor grabbed Gandhi's arm. You people need to learn your place. And just like that, Gandhi was tossed from the train. Literally, he landed in the snow beside the track. His satchel flew into a puddle. Oscar gasped. Hey, what gives? But no one heard him. He was just observing, stuck inside the memory. Gandhi sat in the cold, clutching his bruised ribs. The snow melted into his clothes. His spectacles, somehow now present, lay cracked nearby. Oscar stomped forward. That's not how you treat people, especially ones who say things like namaste and drink tea with dignity. Let me at that conductor. I'll give him a trash can swirl he'll never forget. He turned to grab his lid like a shield. But his can had vanished. The cold wind bit through his fur. He looked back at Gandhi, who hadn't moved. Instead, Gandhi whispered something, not to Oscar, to himself. They may break my body, he said, but they will never control my spirit. Oscar crouched beside him. That guy just flung you like a potato sack. Don't you want to hit something? No, Gandhi replied, calmer than ever. That's what they expect. Oscar growled. So what? Just sit here and be polite? No, Gandhi repeated. Sit and think, and then rise. Smarter, louder, stronger. Oscar grumbled. I'd rather launch a flaming bag of something at their door. Gandhi smiled, still shivering. I once felt the same. Oscar looked at him. Really looked. For the first time he saw not just a peaceful man, but a stubborn one. A fire buried deep under quiet. The scene shimmered. Suddenly, they were in a small courtroom. Gandhi stood alone in front of a judge, papers in hand, voice shaking but unwavering. He spoke of equal rights, of dignity, of law. Oscar sat in the gallery, confused. Wait, you're not even Indian here, are you? Gandhi glanced his way. Not yet. Not entirely. South Africa taught me I was more than a man. I was a symbol. Oscar crossed his arms. Symbols don't change laws. People with noise do. Gandhi nodded. Then perhaps we must redefine noise. Outside the courtroom, Oscar followed him into the dusty street. A group of angry men shouted at Gandhi. One threw a rock. Another called him a name Oscar had never heard before, but knew instantly was hateful. Gandhi flinched, then kept walking. Oscar hissed, "How do you not yell at them? How do you not scream?" Gandhi paused. "I do scream," he said, and he tapped his chest. "Here." The memory began to fade like steam. Sesame Street came slowly back into view, bright buildings, cracked sidewalks, the faint smell of toasted crayon. Oscar was back in his trash can. The spinning wheel sat in the corner, unmoved. But Oscar didn't move either. He sat in the quiet for a long while. Then he muttered to himself, "You screamed inside." He looked at his hands, then down at the old spoon he'd been planning to fling at Bert, and gently he put it down. Trash is cash. Sesame Street alleyway, early morning. Gandhi discovers Oscar's side hustle and gives it a global twist. The sun had barely crested over the brick buildings of Sesame Street when Oscar the Grouch emerged from his can, humming to himself like a raccoon who'd just hit jackpot. In one paw, he held a slightly bent croquet mallet. In the other, a vintage denim jacket with rhinestones spelling Debbie on the back. Between his teeth, a wedding band. 3 breakups, 4 bulk pickups, and 1 estate sale later. Oscar chuckled. Jackpot. From behind a recycling bin, a quiet voice asked, "Busy morning?" Oscar jumped, dropping the ring into his coffee. "Will you stop doing that? You sneak up quieter than a ninja in socks." Gandhi emerged calmly, holding a tea mug made from a chipped flower pot. "I was observing. You move with great purpose." Oscar puffed out his chest. "You bet I do. This isn't just garbage hunting. This is a business, Gandhi." He waved a laminated sign from inside the can. "Trash is cash. You chuck it, I flip it. Reclaimed goods. No questions asked. Venmo preferred." Gandhi blinked. "You have a logo?" Oscar pulled out a paper bag with a poorly stenciled logo that featured a raccoon riding a dollar sign. "I outsourced branding to Murray the squirrel." "Ah." They walked through the alley, Oscar showing off his loot. "People throw out everything," he said proudly. "After a divorce, boom, rings, suits, shoes, house upgrades. Goodbye rugs, goodbye lamps. College kids leave in June. I clean up like a seagull at a beach wedding." Gandhi examined a floral lamp with a cracked base. "Does this still work?" Oscar flicked it on. A faint glow. Only flickers if you yell at it. "Like some politicians," Gandhi mused. Oscar cackled. Oscar led him to a makeshift shed behind the can. "Welcome to the grotto." Inside, shelves were stacked with everything from shoes to salad spinners. One corner held carefully cleaned children's clothes. Another was filled with mismatched socks. In the back sat a rusted cash register, a sign reading, "Clearance section, $1 or a story." Oscar crossed his arms proudly. "People say grouches don't care, but look at this. I'm practically a cultural preservationist." Gandhi ran his fingers along a row of hand-knit scarves. "You have found value in what others discard." Oscar nodded. "Exactly. One Grouch's moldy slipper is another Grouch's foot heater." Then Gandhi grew quiet. He picked up a neatly folded bundle of jackets. "Do you ever donate?" Oscar snorted. "Donate? This is a capitalist endeavor, bro." Gandhi raised an eyebrow. Oscar blinked. "Okay, maybe. Once I gave a blender to Prairie Dawn, but she still owes me 3 cookies." Later that afternoon, Gandhi returned with a proposal. He held up a flyer he'd written in cursive, beautifully illustrated with drawings of spinning wheels and gently smiling elephants. Share the street, clothing for dignity. Help send quality, reclaimed clothes to rural communities in Gujarat and Bengal. Rewear, reuse, respect. Oscar stared at it. Wait, you want me to give away my stockpile? Not all of it, Gandhi said. Just what you don't sell, or what children could use. You said it yourself. Some of this ends up forgotten. Oscar crossed his arms. So now I'm Trash Robin Hood? Gandhi smiled. Perhaps more like Trash Buddha. Oscar groaned. You're lucky I like you. The next week they set up a donation station on Sesame Street. Big Bird helped sort by color. Grover folded socks while spinning in circles. Elmo tried to eat a shoe, mistaking it for a fuzzy banana. Gandhi gently explained how the garments would travel. Oscar muttered, but didn't leave. And then a mother walked up holding her toddler. She quietly placed a clean, tiny coat in the bin. Oscar watched. Where'd you get that one? He asked. Trash room 3B, she said. Too small for him now, but still good. Oscar nodded. And something in him, a small, crumpled something, unfolded just a little. That evening, Oscar tallied his earnings. Sold a lava lamp, a bridesmaid dress, and a waffle iron shaped like Elvis, he mumbled. Not bad. He also counted 67 donated items. Weird, he said aloud. Feels kind of good. From behind him, Gandhi spoke. I told you, you already make things that last. Oscar held up a baby onesie covered in smiley faces. Fine. But if anyone calls me generous, I swear I'm moving to a dump in Jersey. I would never insult you like that, Gandhi replied. Oscar smirked, then carefully, quietly packed the box. Here, for your next silence trip. Gandhi opened it. A crayon drawing of a trash can and a spider. And Gandhi, all sitting under a sign that said, Noise Welcome. Trolley protests and tin signs. Sesame Street, midday. A little too cheerful for Oscar's taste. The sun was out. The sky was blue. Someone was singing. Oscar hated it. From his trash can he heard it, somewhere off near the fire hydrant. Sunny day, sweeping the clouds away. Oscar popped his lid and shouted, Put the clouds back. But the song just kept going. Big Bird was skipping. Elmo was dancing in circles. Cookie Monster had organized a spontaneous bake sale with samples. Oscar groaned. It's like a nightmare where everyone smiles and the cookies are free. Disgusting. He slammed his lid, only for it to bounce back open from the sheer force of the good vibes. Gandhi, sitting serenely on a folding crate beside the can, tilted his head. You seem disturbed, my friend. Oscar glared. This place is a menace. It's a noise factory with glitter frosting. I need something to change the mood, maybe a blackout or a garlic storm. Gandhi smiled, or perhaps a protest. Oscar blinked. A what now? A peaceful demonstration to voice your concerns, to gather like-minded individuals and express your message. Oscar's mouth fell open. You're saying I can march against happiness? You may march for grumpiness, Gandhi corrected gently. Focus not on what you oppose, but what you stand for. Oscar grinned. A tooth fell out. He didn't care. I like that. That's good spin. Like literal spin, like a thread thing. He popped fully out of the can and rubbed his green hands together. Time to stir the compost. By that afternoon, Oscar and Gandhi had crafted a dozen handmade signs using cardboard scraps, glitter glue, Oscar complained, and something that smelled suspiciously like pickle juice. The slogans included, Down with Upbeat, Equal Rights for Grouches. Songs are Noise with Delusions, Stop the Skip, More Garbage, Less Garland. Oscar held up the last one and sighed. Poetry. Gandhi nodded. And truth. They began recruiting. First up, Grover. Oscar cornered him near Hooper's store. Hey, blue guy, ever been too tired to dance along? Grover blinked. I'm often tired. Do you hate how people expect you to be cheerful all the time? Grover looked around, then whispered, Sometimes I just want a nap under the register. Perfect, you're in. Next was the Count. Oscar appealed to his logic. They play that same song every morning. That's one repetition every day. That's 7 times a week. The Count's eyes lit up. 7 irritating repetitions. Ah, ha, ha. Now imagine no songs. Ever. The Count gasped. A glorious silence. You get to count the stillness. I am intrigued. By the time the march began, there were 6 of them. Oscar, Gandhi, Grover, the Count, Baby Bear, who was just cranky about nap time, and a bewildered Ernie holding a sign that read, I thought this was a line for ice cream. They marched slowly down Sesame Street. Gandhi led the way, staff in hand. Oscar followed, banging a pot lid like a protest drum. They weren't angry. They were grumpily determined. Big Bird waved from the stoop. Hi, Oscar. What you protesting? Happiness. Oh, okay. Have fun, Oscar growled. See, this is exactly what I mean. Elmo skipped alongside. Elmo loves marching. This isn't for fun, you little ball of fuzz. This is serious. We're demanding the right to frown in peace. Gandhi, walking beside him, handed Elmo a mini sign that read, Respect all moods. Elmo beamed. Elmo respects moods. Oscar slapped his forehead. This is the worst protest ever. But then something strange happened. People started paying attention. Cookie Monster offered to stop shouting about cookies, just for an hour. Zoe turned down the volume on her bubble machine. Even Bert paused his pigeon commentary to nod solemnly in support. Oscar blinked. You mean, it's working? Gandhi placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Change begins not with rage, but with rhythm. Oscar looked back at the tiny group, mismatched, mildly confused, holding signs at awkward angles, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Seen. He let out a long, satisfied sigh. Well, this is terrible. Gandhi chuckled. Terribly effective. That evening, the neighborhood gathered in the courtyard. They held a town circle, part discussion, part nap. Oscar was granted 15 whole minutes to talk about the pressure of cheerfulness. Big Bird listened. Even Snuffy showed up and sniffled in support. Gandhi sat beside Oscar but said little. His presence alone seemed to steady the moment. Oscar finished his speech with, "We don't need to smile all the time. Sometimes we need to sit in the stink together." The crowd applauded softly. Oscar wiped his nose on a leaf. "I think I hate how much I don't hate this." Gandhi smiled, eyes twinkling. That's the beginning of revolution. That night, Oscar returned to his can, exhausted but lighter. He looked at the glittery protest sign leaning against his wall and the tiny spinning wheel still humming softly in the corner. He sighed, climbed into a pile of expired pudding containers, and muttered, "Fine, maybe not everything on this street needs to change." Then he rolled over and grinned, just a little, but only because no one could see. March to the Sea of Garbage. India, 1930. Reimagined through Oscar's reluctant participation in Gandhi's historic Salt March. Oscar awoke with banana peels in his ears and a sock puppet in his mouth. "Plug, what the—" he sputtered, sitting up in a pile of recyclables that smelled faintly of regret. But this wasn't his trash can. He was outside, on a dirt path, with goats and heat. So much heat. The sun baked the earth like a giant curry dish, and the air buzzed with the hum of distant drums and hummingbirds. Oscar squinted at the horizon. A long line of people stretched down the dusty road, walking barefoot, holding simple staffs, chanting in unison. And at the front of the line, Gandhi. Of course. Oscar spat out the sock and trudged forward. "All right, Gandhi. I know dream logic when I smell it. What now?" Gandhi turned, walking stick in hand, smile soft. "Oscar, you're just in time. We march." Oscar looked down. He was wearing sandals and a sash that said, "Team Grump, Salt Unit." "March where?" "To the sea," Gandhi replied. Oscar groaned. "Ugh, sand, salt, sweat. This better be one of your weird symbolic rebellions and not just cardio for the sake of cardio." As they walked, Oscar noticed something strange. The people weren't complaining. Their feet bled. Their clothes were torn. The sun was merciless. But they marched like every step meant something. Oscar waddled beside Gandhi, dragging his trash can on wheels like a sacred relic. "This is about salt?" he asked, trying to fan himself with a pizza box. "Really? Of all things?" "Salt," Gandhi said, "is life. It preserves food, flavors the earth, heals wounds. Also makes my fur puff," Oscar muttered. "In 1930, Gandhi continued, the British Empire made it illegal for Indians to make their own salt. They taxed what was free, what belonged to all." Oscar narrowed his eyes. "Wait, you're telling me the government owned salt?" "Indeed. So we marched 240 miles to the sea to make it ourselves." Oscar blinked. "You rebelled by evaporating ocean water?" "Yes." Oscar's face slowly broke into a wicked grin. "That is so petty, I love it." They kept walking. Villagers joined along the way. Mothers with children, shopkeepers, farmers, poets, sweepers. Everyone walked beside Gandhi with quiet pride, many of them barefoot on the burning ground. Oscar, after an hour, stopped to pour soup on his feet. "It's called hydration, people." A child offered him a lemon. He glared at it. Gandhi took it with a bow and offered it to Oscar. "Bitterness tempered by sweetness," he said. Oscar growled, "If you quote another proverb, I swear I'm throwing you in the sea." Gandhi smiled. "You'd have to catch me first." Oscar blinked. Did you just make a joke?" "A quiet one." Oscar grumbled, trying to suppress a grin. "This march is doing weird things to you." 3 days in, Oscar's trash can had become a sort of rolling headquarters. He handed out sardines, collected rocks, sharpened sticks with attitude. He even built a mini banner that read, "Salt this." Children laughed. Gandhi nodded in approval. Oscar groaned. "Why do I feel like this is almost fun?" Gandhi replied, "Because meaning is often hidden beneath discomfort." "Or maybe I'm just too sun-fried to care," Oscar muttered. On the 12th day, they reached the sea. Thousands of people stood in silence, staring at the waves, ancient, wild, and defiant. Oscar had never seen anything like it. No buildings, no fences, just water. Gandhi stepped forward, bent down, and picked up a clump of salt-crusted sand. He raised it high. The crowd erupted, not with cheers, but with clarity. The kind of noise that isn't noise at all, but something deeper. A declaration. Oscar leaned forward, squinting at the little pile of crust in Gandhi's hand. "That's it?" "That's it," Gandhi said. Oscar shook his head. "The whole empire's going to be furious, huh?" "Yes." Oscar stared at the sea. "Good." Later that night, Oscar sat alone near the shore, his can parked beside a sleeping donkey. He watched the moonlight ripple across the salt flats. Gandhi sat beside him. "Do you understand now?" he asked softly. Oscar didn't answer right away. Then he said, "You made thousands of people walk across a continent for something invisible, and now they're home, tired, blistered, and broke." Gandhi nodded. "But awake." Oscar exhaled. "I still don't like people." "Neither do I sometimes," Gandhi said. "But I love what they can become." Oscar picked up a handful of sand, squeezed it tight, and let it fall through his fingers like rain. "You ever think about fighting dirty?" "All the time," Gandhi said. "But then I remember the sea. Patient, powerful, never striking, just pulling back and returning stronger." Oscar frowned. "That's kinda beautiful." "I know." Oscar stared at the ocean. "Can we go home now?" "Tomorrow," Gandhi said. "Tonight we listen to the waves." Oscar leaned back against his can, crossed his arms, and closed his eyes. "I still think your protest was missing trash cannons." Gandhi laughed, soft and low, and they sat there, two revolutionaries under a starlit sky, one with calloused feet, the other with garbage in his ears. Letters from the can. Sesame Street, over the course of several days while Gandhi is away. Gandhi disappeared on a Tuesday, not dramatically, not with fanfare or folded notes tucked into sandals. Just gone. Oscar popped his lid mid-morning, ready to complain about the weather, or Gandhi's weird herbal tea that made his garbage smell like mint, or the fact that Big Bird was probably singing again. But the crate beside his can was empty. The spinning wheel was gone. The folded shawl, too. No staff, no sandals, no soft humming. Just stillness. Oscar blinked. Then slammed his lid and grumbled. Finally. Day 1. Oscar lasted 6 whole hours without saying anything. Then he yelled at a pigeon just to break the silence. Then he sat quietly for a while. Then he yelled at the pigeon again, louder this time, because it didn't respond the first time. Then he sighed and muttered, "Stupid bird. Doesn't know a protest when it hears one." He looked at the crate. Still empty. Oscar shuffled deeper into his can, flipped a tin lid over, and grabbed a crayon from the pile of broken art supplies. After a moment of hesitation, he started scribbling on the back of an overdue utility bill. "Dear Robe Guy, don't get mushy. This is not a real letter. It's a complaint form formally lodged against your absence. Your spinning noises were loud, your tea was weird, and your constant calmness was frankly offensive. That said, the place is too quiet now. No one listens to me. And Margaret the spider won't shut up about chakras. If you're meditating somewhere, fine. But don't forget who taught you how to tell off a mailbox." Grouchily, he folded it, looked around, then quietly tucked it under the crate. Just in case. Day 3. Still no Gandhi. Oscar woke up to a thunderstorm and a wet sandwich under his armpit. He mumbled curses and hurled the sandwich at the wall where it stuck with a soggy splat. Then he turned to the crate. Still empty. This time he didn't hesitate. "Dear Salt Wizard, Margaret bit me today. I deserved it." I told her the Salt March was dramatic theater. She said at least it meant something. That was annoying. And true, you'd probably say something gentle about spiders and souls, and then fix my rain tarp with one piece of string and a smile. I miss that. Don't tell anyone I said that. Grouchily still, but slightly soggy. Day 5. The crate was not empty. Oscar didn't notice at first. He'd been yelling at a passing leaf, but then he turned around and saw it. A piece of folded cloth. Inside, a letter, written in careful ink strokes, curved and calm. "Dear friend, forgive my absence. I've taken a few days for silence, as I used to do once a week in Sabarmati. Not because I do not wish to speak, but because the world speaks loudly, and silence allows the soul to breathe. I have missed your racket. I hope Margaret is still spinning. Your letters reached me in ways I cannot explain. I have marched with kings, spoken with empires, and stared down soldiers, but I have rarely received mail quite so honest. I shall return soon, with admiration and earplugs. MKG." Oscar stared at the page. He didn't crumple it, didn't hurl it, just sat with it. Margaret crawled across the lid of the can, sipping rainwater from a puddle. Oscar whispered, He's coming back. She paused, then continued spinning. Oscar sat down at his workbench, lit a little candle from his emergency birthday stash, and wrote another letter. The next morning, Gandhi returned. No announcement, just the sound of the spinning wheel outside the can again. Whir, whir, whir. Oscar didn't say anything for a long time. Then finally, he grunted, "Took you long enough." "I had to finish reading your letters," Gandhi replied. Oscar rolled his eyes. They weren't letters, just angry thoughts written down. "Is that not all writing is?" Oscar paused, then handed him a folded sheet. "Here, for your next silence trip." Gandhi opened it. A crayon drawing of a trash can and a spider, and Gandhi, all sitting under a sign that said, "Noise welcome. Big Bird's Big Question. Sesame Street Community Garden, late afternoon." The sun was starting to sink behind the rooftops, casting long shadows across Sesame Street. Gandhi sat cross-legged on a patch of grass near the community garden, threading a length of yarn through his fingers with deliberate care. Oscar lounged nearby in a lawn chair salvaged from the dump, one armrest missing, the other held together with a banana peel. Margaret the spider hung in a web between two sunflowers. A worm peeked out from a watering can. The breeze smelled faintly of compost and sidewalk chalk. It was unusually peaceful. Naturally, Oscar hated it. "What's this meditation circle day?" he grumbled. Gandhi didn't look up. "Just sitting." Oscar rolled his eyes. Sitting always feels like it's waiting for something bad. At that moment, Big Bird approached, his long yellow feathers swaying like grass in the wind. He was holding a small bouquet of slightly wilted daisies. "Hi, Oscar." "Hi, Gandhi." Oscar groaned. "Oh no, is it hug time again?" Big Bird smiled. "Nope, I brought questions." Oscar blinked. Worse. Big Bird plopped onto the grass, knees folding like scaffolding. He turned to Gandhi. "I've been thinking about something." Gandhi nodded. "Thinking is a fine activity." Big Bird looked serious. "Why don't you ever yell?" Oscar leaned forward slightly. "Yeah," he echoed. "I mean, not that I want you to start. But you've seen stuff, heard awful things, been treated like garbage, and yet you just talk real soft and walk away. What gives?" Gandhi paused his spinning. He placed the yarn on the grass and looked up at Big Bird. "Because yelling," he said gently, "changes the volume, but rarely the heart." Big Bird tilted his head. "But what if someone's really mean? Like, shouts at you, calls you names, pushes you around." Oscar crossed his arms. "Or kicks you off a train in the middle of a frozen nowhere." Gandhi nodded. "Then I remember that I am not what they say. I am what I choose." Big Bird blinked. "But doesn't that hurt?" "Yes," Gandhi said. "It hurts deeply. But if I let them decide who I become, I let them win twice." Oscar chewed on that. "So it's like a trap." "A trap with no bars," Gandhi said. "Just invitations to be small." Big Bird fiddled with a dandelion. "Sometimes I get mad. Like, really mad. Like when Snuffy forgets our lunch date. or when nobody listens to my big ideas. Oscar snorted. You think you got it bad? I once spent 48 hours buried under alphabet foam tiles. No one noticed. I chewed my way out. Big Bird's eyes widened. You did? Oscar nodded solemnly. G's taste like glue. Gandhi smiled. Anger is not wrong. It is natural, but it must be held like a flame. Big Bird looked down. But I'm scared I'll burn someone. Gandhi reached over, gently placing a hand on Big Bird's wing. Then the fact that you're aware means you already carry great wisdom. Oscar grumbled. Yeah, well, I've yelled plenty. Doesn't change much, but it feels good. It does, Gandhi said, like scratching a wound. Briefly satisfying, but it keeps the pain open. Big Bird's eyes softened. So what do you do when you're really, really angry? Gandhi looked toward the fading sun. I walk, he said. I breathe. I fast. I write. I sit beside people who do not need me to speak. I make thread. He held up the yarn between his fingers. Each spin reminds me that small actions matter. That piece starts here. He pointed to his chest before it reaches here. He pointed to the world. There was a silence, not awkward, just full. Big Bird finally said, You're kinda like Snuffy. Oscar blinked. What? Snuffy gets real quiet when he's upset. Just kind of snuffles it out. Oscar shrugged. Well, you've got your quiet elephant. I've got my salt guru. Big Bird looked at Gandhi. Do you ever wish you could roar? Gandhi smiled. Every day, but I choose to echo instead. Oscar squinted. Echo. To speak softly and be remembered loudly. Big Bird gasped. That's so pretty. Oscar groaned. That's so exhausting. The sun finally dipped below the rooftops. Big Bird stood up, brushing feathers from his legs. Thanks, Gandhi. I think I'm gonna go write a poem now. Oscar rolled his eyes. Of course you are. As Big Bird waddled away, he turned back and shouted, It's gonna be called Flames and Feathers. Oscar muttered, I'll be over here writing trash and regret. Gandhi chuckled. You've come far, Oscar. Oscar side-eyed him. I still yell, you know. I know, Gandhi said. But you also write. Oscar folded his arms. Then unfolded them, then reached for a nearby envelope and, without thinking, handed it to Gandhi. Inside was a drawing of Big Bird holding a candle. The caption read, Don't yell, glow. Oscar coughed. Whatever, Margaret made me do it. The Grouch Who Fasted. Oscar's trash can, then Sesame Street, over the course of one very chaotic day. Oscar awoke with a mission. A grouchy, glorious, grumbly mission. He popped his lid open and shouted to no one in particular, Starting now. I refuse to eat until I get what I want. A few birds scattered. A paper cup blew dramatically across the sidewalk. Inside the can, Margaret the spider blinked. From a crate nearby, Gandhi sipped tea and looked over calmly. And what is it you want? Fewer ducks in the neighborhood, Oscar said. Gandhi raised an eyebrow. And an official ban on jazz hands. I see. Oscar folded his arms. Also, every Tuesday should be Sad Noises Day. Gandhi nodded thoughtfully. A hunger strike, then. Exactly, Oscar bellowed. You did one. Several, in fact. People listened. Why shouldn't I get a piece of that pie? Gandhi smiled. Ironically, one usually gives up pie during such efforts. Oscar grunted. Fine. Pie's gone. Sandwiches. Gone. Rotten eggs. Reluctantly. Gone. Margaret slowly lowered a sticky note that read, "This is going to end in granola." Oscar was determined. For a full 17 minutes, he remained entirely food-free. No sardine suckers, no pickle pops, no compost chips. He even slapped a sticker on the side of his can that read, "Fast in progress. Do not tempt." By hour 1, he was starting to feel lightheaded. By hour 2, he was hallucinating a giant cupcake with Gandhi's glasses. "Back, sugary imposter," he shouted, swatting the air. Gandhi observed quietly, spinning thread. By hour 3, Cookie Monster walked by holding a triple-decker chipwich. Oscar wept, just a little. "I do this for justice." Cookie offered a bite. Gandhi raised a hand. "Let him choose." Oscar sniffed dramatically, then turned away. "Number, I am strong. I am the storm. I am weight is that cheesecake." Hour 5. Oscar began delivering public speeches from his can like a trash-scented statesman. "My fellow Grouches, we must rise against the tyranny of unnecessary whimsy. No more smiling for no reason. No more jazz squares at lunchtime." Gina walked by and nodded politely. "You want me to send over some broccoli?" Oscar howled. "Temptress." Big Bird approached with a juice box. Oscar swatted it away like a dramatic Victorian widow. "I will not be swayed by apple essence." Hour 6. He lay in the bottom of his can, curled beside a melted crayon and a half-chewed button. Margaret peered down from her web. "Still striking?" Oscar groaned. "Barely. But yes." Outside, Gandhi placed a folded towel on the crate beside the can and climbed up slowly. He said nothing for a while. Then quietly, "You know, I didn't fast to get something." Oscar's eyes cracked open. "Huh?" Gandhi continued. "I fasted when I had no other way to say, 'Please, stop hurting each other.' It was not about winning, it was about witnessing." Oscar rolled onto his back. "You telling me all this stomach growling was symbolic?" Gandhi smiled. "It's about asking your own soul. What am I willing to let go of to make room for peace?" Oscar blinked up at the lid of his can. "So, it's not just about pickles." "No, even the spicy ones?" "Especially the spicy ones." Oscar groaned. This is the worst enlightenment ever. Hour 7. Oscar rolled out of his can dramatically and dragged himself to the center of the street. He pointed at the sky and declared, "I regret everything." Big Bird gasped. "Even the pudding drawer?" Oscar paused. "Number, not the pudding drawer." Then he collapsed onto a beanbag chair someone had left on the curb. Gandhi approached and held out a small bowl of rice. Oscar sniffed. "Is this a bribe?" "No," Gandhi replied. It's a peace offering." Oscar stared at it, then at Gandhi, then back at the rice. Finally, he muttered, "Fine, but I'm only eating half." He took one spoonful, chewed thoughtfully, then moaned, "Oh, my trash bags, that's delicious." Later that night, Oscar sat beside his can, munching rice with slow reverence. "I still think jazz hands are a public menace," he said. "I respect your convictions," Gandhi replied. Margaret spun a tiny banner that read, "He made it 7 hours, a new Grouch record." Oscar held it up proudly. "Beat my old record by 6.5. Gandhi smiled. "And you spoke from your belly." Oscar tapped his stomach. "Turns out, it has some opinions." They sat together as the stars appeared above the stoop. No protests, no spinning, just chewing and understanding. The Puppet Parliament. Sesame Street Community Center. An emergency town hall meeting. It began with a pie, a banana cream pie. Thrown, accidentally of course, by Grover during a dispute over napkin storage at Hooper's store. The pie hit Ernie. Ernie screamed. Bert slipped on the pie plate. The Count tried to count the apologies, but lost track at 7 apologies. Wait, who said that one? From there, it escalated. Snuffy refused to participate in group yoga. Cookie Monster accused Elmo of mislabeling gluten-free muffins. Oscar, naturally, watched the whole meltdown with growing delight. This is the best Tuesday of my life. By noon, the community was in shambles. Friendships fraying. Song rehearsals canceled. An emergency meeting was called at the Sesame Street Community Center. Everyone arrived. Tense, loud, colorful. Even the pigeons looked nervous. At the front of the room, a small hand-painted sign had read, "Town Hall, moderated by Gandhi." Oscar snorted. "Of course it is." Gandhi stood behind a podium made of stacked milk crates and spoke into a borrowed karaoke mic. "Friends," he began calmly, "we are here not to assign blame, but to understand each other." Grover raised a hand. "I blame the pie." Ernie shouted, "I blame gravity." Bert hissed, "You ruined my sock ledger." Gandhi held up his hands. "Let us begin not with accusations, but with breath." Oscar shouted from the back, "I vote we begin with boxing gloves." Gandhi smiled. "And yet here you are, participating." Oscar slumped in his seat. "Don't make it sound noble. I came for the free pretzels." Margaret the spider, perched on Oscar's shoulder in a little scarf, whispered, "And to heckle." "Exactly," Oscar muttered. Gandhi turned to the crowd. "I propose we hear each voice one at a time, not to argue, but to witness." The Count stood up. "I will go first. I'm angry because no one ever lets me count their hugs. They hug, they smile, they move on. But how many hugs? I need to know." Everyone blinked, then nodded. "That's actually fair," said Big Bird. Elmo jumped in. Elmo gets frustrated when people laugh at Elmo's poems. They're supposed to be deep. Oscar raised an eyebrow. "Elmo writes poetry?" Elmo puffed his chest. "Roses are red. Trash cans are round. Sometimes Elmo cries, without a sound. Oscar stared. Okay, that I respect. One by one, the puppets aired their grievances. Tensions deflated. Laughter crept in. But just as things began to settle, the topic turned to neighborhood rules. Bert proposed a weekly Pigeon Awareness Hour. Cookie Monster demanded snack representation. Grover asked for more capes in the Lost and Found. Arguments erupted again. Oscar rolled his eyes. This is why I don't do committees. Gandhi turned toward him. Oscar, you seem observant. What would you suggest? Oscar blinked. What, me? No way, I'm the opposite of helpful. But you hear everyone. You always have. Oscar muttered. Fine. But I'm charging overtime. He stood up, cleared his throat, and looked around the room. Here's the thing, he grumbled. You all talk about fairness and fun and friendship and other words that start with F. Grover raised a hand. Froyo. Oscar glared. Anyway, you keep arguing like someone else is in charge, but you're all in charge. That's what makes this place Sesame Street, not Corporate Avenue. Elmo blinked. What does that mean? It means, Oscar said, you either figure out how to live with each other's weirdness, or you end up throwing pies forever. Bert stood. But what about order? Systems, rules? Oscar groaned. Then make a rule for respect, for difference, for learning to shut up and listen. Everyone stared. Oscar huffed. Look, I'm a grouch. I hate harmony. But even I know a broken neighborhood stinks worse than expired cabbage in a heat wave. There was a silence. Then Gandhi smiled. Well said. They voted. Together, they made a list of Sesame Street values. Respect everyone's weirdness. 1 cookie per speaker, for balance. Group hugs optional, not mandatory. Listening is just as loud as talking. Grouches get 5-minute rant passes per day. Oscar's was laminated. He framed it, but never admitted it. After the meeting, Oscar sat on the stoop, sipping a cup of warm pickle juice. Gandhi joined him. You surprised them, Gandhi said. Oscar shrugged. They're lucky I didn't install a trap door under the podium. Gandhi chuckled. You led with truth. Oscar looked away. I wasn't trying to. That, Gandhi said, is what made it work. Oscar handed him a tiny nameplate he'd carved out of a sardine tin. It read, Grouch approved moderator. Gandhi smiled. High praise. Oscar grunted. Don't let it go to your bald head. Freedom in Trash Town. India, August 15th, 1947, the eve of independence. Oscar woke to the sound of firecrackers. But they didn't sound like celebration. They sounded like endings. He climbed out of his trash can, except it wasn't his trash can anymore. It stood in the middle of a wide, dusty courtyard surrounded by stone buildings and oil lamps. Above him, a paper banner fluttered in the wind. Swatantrata Divas, Independence Day. Oscar blinked. Oh, great, another one of your memory trips. Beside him stood Gandhi, older now, thinner, a little more fragile around the eyes, but steady. Oscar squinted. So, this is the day. Gandhi nodded. August 15th, 1947. The day India broke its chains. Oscar looked around. People flooded the streets, dancing, weeping, praying, shouting. "You don't look happy," he said. "I am relieved," Gandhi replied. "That's not the same," Oscar said quietly. "No," Gandhi agreed. "It's not." They walked together through the crowd. Oscar noticed the flags first, tri-colored banners painted on buildings, held high in parades, wrapped around children's shoulders like magic cloaks. Then came the shouting. Not angry, but not exactly peaceful either. Freedom, it turned out, was loud. "Sounds like your kind of party," Oscar muttered. "It is their party," Gandhi said softly, "but not mine." Oscar frowned. "You led this. Fasts, marches, jail time. You're the reason this happened." Gandhi stopped walking, and for a moment, he looked tired. "I also failed," he said. Oscar turned. "Excuse me." "India is free," Gandhi whispered, "but divided." They sat on a low stone wall near a marketplace. Behind them, a temple bell rang. In front of them, a mosque lit its lanterns for evening prayer. Oscar tilted his head. "You mean the split? Pakistan?" Gandhi nodded. "We fought for unity, but fear moves faster than peace." Oscar looked down. "Yeah, fear's efficient like that." Gandhi reached into his satchel and pulled out a folded piece of newspaper. On the front, a headline about partition riots. Thousands displaced, cities burning, brothers turning on brothers. Oscar read in silence, then asked, "So, you won, but lost?" Gandhi stared out at the horizon. "Sometimes victory comes dressed as sorrow." They walked again, past families lighting candles, past speeches broadcast from radios in cracked windows, past a boy standing alone clutching a tin lunchbox, waiting for a train that no longer ran. Oscar muttered, "I get it now." Gandhi glanced over. "You didn't want fireworks," Oscar said. "You wanted wholeness." "Yes." Oscar folded his arms. "I always thought freedom was like getting out of a cage, but this looks more like walking into a storm." "It is both," Gandhi said. "A beginning and a reckoning." Later that night, they stood on a quiet hilltop. Below them, Delhi glittered, and from across the plains came music, flutes, voices, prayers. Gandhi held a match, lit a small clay lamp, placed it at the base of Oscar's can. Oscar stared at the flame. "Is this a ceremony?" "It is remembrance." Oscar sat beside him, and for once didn't complain. "Do they remember you?" he asked quietly. Gandhi smiled. "Sometimes, but I remember them, and that is enough." The wind shifted. Oscar blinked, and Sesame Street returned. The lamp was still there, now resting on the curb beside a wilted sandwich. Oscar stared at it. Gandhi was gone. Margaret crawled onto the rim of the can. "Was that real?" she asked. Oscar didn't answer. He just reached down and guarded the flame with his hand. The street stays awake. Sesame Street, twilight into night. Gandhi's final day. The first clue was the tea. It wasn't there. For months now, Oscar had awoken to the faint smell of chamomile or cardamom or some other earthy nonsense steaming gently beside his trash can. But this morning there was only air. No tea, no spinning, no Gandhi. Oscar rose slowly. Margaret peeked from her web and whispered, "Is he meditating again?" Oscar didn't answer. He was already peeking under the crate, checking the wheelbarrow behind the mailbox, the shaded stoop near Hooper's. Nothing. Just Sesame Street. Normal. And suddenly, too quiet. He found the note by midday, tucked beneath the charka. It wasn't long. Gandhi never wrote more than necessary. Dear friend, my time here ends as all time must. Your street is full of color and conflict and beauty. You do not need me here anymore. But remember this. Stillness is not silence. Anger is not your enemy. And trash in the right hands becomes treasure. Spin. Listen. Love. MKG. Oscar stared at the note. Then crumpled it. Then smoothed it out again. Then whispered, "That bald broomstick better not think I'm going to feel things." He spent the afternoon gathering scraps, old protest signs, broken puppets, bits of thread. He didn't know why. He just knew that the crate beside his can looked too empty now. At sundown, he sat on his lid, feet dangling. Elmo walked by. "Oscar, wanna join the neighborhood sing-along?" Oscar shook his head. "Not today, kid." Big Bird stopped too. "Did Gandhi go away?" Oscar shrugged. "Went where all peaceful nuisances go, I guess." Big Bird looked at the empty crate and said, "I miss him already." Oscar grumbled, "Well, don't tell anyone, but yeah." Night fell fast. Oscar sat in the dark, staring, thinking. The candle Gandhi had lit back in India now sat in the gutter beside the curb. Still burning. Still small. Oscar sighed. Fine. He rolled back his lid, dug through his trash, found an old mason jar, some string, a pickle lid. Then he started building. By moonrise, the whole street was quiet, and at exactly 9 p.m., a small sound echoed across the block. Clink, clink, clink. Everyone came to their windows. Cookie Monster, Grover, Gina, Big Bird. Even Bert and Ernie paused their ongoing debate about sock rotation. Oscar stood in the middle of the street beside his can, holding a staff made of broken broom handles, wearing a sash made from tea towels, and beside him an old charka spun slowly on a crate, powered by an egg beater and hope. "I call this meeting to order," Oscar said. "No singing, no hugging, just remembering." He lit a new candle, placed it beside the old one, then stepped aside. One by one, the neighbors came forward. Big Bird placed a feather on the crate. Grover left a note. "Thank you for the listening." Elmo donated his poem. "Peace is soft but strong, like a sock that's been worn but still fits." Oscar read it out loud, then muttered, "That's actually not bad." The Count whispered, One peaceful soul. Two peaceful souls. Margaret lowered a tiny flag that read, "Namaste and nonsense." Oscar just watched, hands in his pockets, heart somewhere in his throat. After everyone had gone to bed, Oscar stayed up, alone. He looked at the stars, at the trash can, at the crate, then muttered, "I told you not to leave like that." He pulled out a small letter he'd written earlier that day, didn't read it, just folded it into a tiny boat and placed it in the puddle at the curb. It floated gently toward the drain, and in the flickering candlelight, Oscar whispered, "Stillness isn't silence. Trash becomes treasure, and somehow, I get it now." The wind picked up, the flame danced, and Sesame Street stayed awake, just a little longer. What Gandhi and Oscar taught each other. They were never supposed to meet. One was born into empire, the other into a trash can. One led a revolution with no bullets, the other led a protest against jazz hands. But somehow, across time, continents, and logic, they became friends. Not the kind who take selfies. The kind who sit in silence and still understand. The kind who argue, laugh, grow, and sometimes throw old fruit just to make a point. Oscar taught Gandhi that even peaceful people need to grumble sometimes. That a well-placed complaint can be a form of poetry. That protest can look like a scowl, a shrug, or a perfectly timed lid slam. He showed him the beauty in messes, literal and emotional, in forgotten things, in broken puppets, bitten shoes, and unsent letters. And Gandhi. He taught Oscar that noise doesn't always mean you're being heard. That stillness can be strength. That a thread, spun patiently, might just unravel an empire. They didn't always agree. Oscar believed in trash piles. Gandhi believed in inner light. Oscar wanted change loud and immediate. Gandhi moved like a river, slow, steady, carving canyons with kindness. But in between, they found the sacred middle. Listening, sitting, turning anger into action, turning frustration into form, turning noise into meaning. Some nights when Sesame Street is quiet, if you walk past the old trash can by the corner, you might still hear it. A soft whir of a spinning wheel, a voice muttering about too many pigeons, and, once in a while, laughter. Low, honest, shared. Because what Gandhi and Oscar taught each other wasn't how to be better, it was how to be whole. One thread at a time, one grouch at a time, one revolution of the heart